Like I say, we have a Discord. It's a few people on. We chat all hours of the day and night. Very few people. So if you have a question, you can just pop in. Someone will get back to you and just, chat and talk. I mean, heck, we discovered over this pandemic that more Americans are moving to bidets because they're tired of the toilet paper shortage. And that is useful advice that you get on a Discord that you might not get on a bigger one. But trust me, a bidet, it's a good thing, especially when people are out like hoarding toilet paper. What the heck's with the toilet paper? I feel like I have to sneeze. Record video. Is this thing on? Nope, don't have to sneeze. Hey everybody, this is Sully. It's 2020 and it's probably Thanksgiving Day when this comes out, so I wanted to be thankful for everybody out there, and I wanted to give thanks and hope. So if you made it this far in 2020, good job, because it's been a rough year. Rough year. I feel like this is going back to Voyager. Star Trek Voyager, they had the year of hell. It was a 2-part episode, but in the end, someone fixed the timeline. And I keep waiting for Marty McFly to run by and scream for Doc, because we need some help. But anyway, I got the COVID hair rocking, and I'm here today to bring you my tips for getting into FPV in 2021. And they're going to probably differ a little bit. I wanted to just give you a few tips here from someone who's been in this hobby for 4 years now and has made some mistakes. So thought I would give you my learned advice. Not my, ooh, go do this advice, but my learned advice. Number 1, if you're just starting out and you haven't made any purchases yet, plan on budgeting for digital. If you set up your whole scenario for analog, converting to digital adds an extreme expense onto that in upgrading your goggles and in upgrading all of the VTXs and all of your quads to be compatible with digital. Whereas if you start off in digital, going to analog is fairly, it's a module swap, or there are some mods for it. If you got the COVID hair, like and thumbs up down below, because holy cow, I am not cutting this beautiful stuff until I go back into the office, which will probably be in 2021, and I'll donate it to charity for children who have cancer. So anyway, I've done it before, and it's a great thing. Like, I just love doing that, because you at least get a letter and it says, someone got your hair, and they are now happier for it. Because, when you're a kid and you have no hair, this isn't getting cut. So, going digital, I would say start off, just budget for digital, because moving from analog to digital is a prohibitive expense. Just trust me on that. All right, so number 1, goggles. I'm saying if you're going DJI, if you're going digital, DJI goggles, about no-brainer there. If you're not going digital, I like box goggles, but you're going to spend about as much for good goggles as you would just going digital right now. So still, you're going to expect to spend $300 to $500. That's a lot for goggles. Now, if you're like me, I went with box goggles, EV800 DMs. I love them. They work great. They're small. I'm a hobbyist. I'm not a professional. I'm not one to go in hardcore on this. So if I were doing it budget-minded, I would go with box goggles and analog setup. But again, if I were starting in 2021, I probably would go digital, because it's just, that is the future. And DJI is the only one with a viable future right now. SharkBite looks good, it's promising, but you're on that bleeding edge thing. And I don't know if I can recommend that yet. Number 2, pick a radio and pick something stable. And I say that because there are so many radios out there right now, and they have firmware problems, or they have distance problems, or they pop out, blah, blah, blah. I personally went with FlySky. I went with a cheap radio, and I like it. It still works. And that is important. I haven't had to upgrade firmware. I haven't had to do anything to it. It's a FlySky ISX 10-channel radio. Works great. I actually bought the IS, and I did upgrade it. But for $10 more, you just get the upgrade. So I would say, in hindsight, it's cheaper to just buy the upgraded version. So anyway, I went FlySky. That doesn't have all the options. It's not whiz bang, but it works. Works really well. Now, if you go digital and you go DJI, yeah, That, that solves your problem there. They have good gimbals too. But if you're doing like FreeSky or OpenTX or DSM or blah, 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 all the others, do your research. Make sure you are aware of the issues. Most people pick one, stick with it. FreeSky is very good. Just make sure you're not planning on doing all these updates. They will drive you crazy. Now, number 3, this is where it gets a little more controversial than what you might hear. If you went digital, you're limited to 3-inch and above, okay? Because as far as I know, there are no whoop sizes in digital. But for my money, 3-inch is the best sweet spot. You get speed, maneuverability, ease, and number 1 point is that they don't break as often. So I like the 3-inch range if you go digital. 5-inch will get you that beautiful whatever you want. 5-inch has a lot of options. 5 inches also has a lot of problems in that you break things. And I've been saying this for 4 years now. The worst thing you can have is broken quad that you can't fly. Like, it really is. Replacing parts is expensive. Getting batteries for 5-inch is expensive. 3-inch, batteries are cheaper. Parts don't break as often. You're just as fast. You're just as maneuverable. They're very good. I love the 3-inch line. I also love the toothpick size. Toothpick and 3-inch are what I recommend to anybody getting into this hobby. They're cheaper. They're just as fast. They're just as much fun. And once you start flying, you'll understand that the fun factor is what most people are after, way more than the footage factor. If I want good drone footage, I'm going to watch it. Like, recreating a lot of that requires travel, it requires going out, and it requires a ton of skill. I don't have that. If I'm just getting into FPV, I'm setting up for that in the future, but for right now, I want to have fun. And the 3-inch and toothpick size, just tons of fun. Also the whoop size. Goes to my 4th, which is a little bit of where I wanted to start this video way back, 7 or 8 minutes ago, whatever, wherever the time frame is. I don't know how I'm editing this, but if I were starting right now and I decided on which way to go, and I decided on my sizes, and I decided if I'm doing digital or analog, there's one thing I would do differently. I personally bought one quad, and I was ready to fly with that one quad. And I bought a bind and fly that came with a receiver, and you just had to plug it in, set it up, and you're off and flying. That sounded great for me. The problem is I didn't know what to do if it broke, and I didn't have a backup. So my recommendation to you, biggest one of all, is to plan for 3 separate paths. Get a bind and fly or plug and play. It depends on your comfort level. That means you're getting a quad that's put together, probably flies well. I would stick with Diatone or GEP-RC or possibly iFlight. Look up many reviews on it. Make sure you check pages like Nick Burns. I also like Albert Kim. I would put UAV Futures in there for a review site, but he can overhype a lot. So I like Nick Burns. He will tell you straight out, this piece flies like junk or this piece flies great. And I like that. I personally do. You'll find Diatone. There are many. Diatone and GEP-RC always have pretty good reviews from across the board. Just make sure you're looking at reputable people who don't overhype or oversell. And I say that because it's very easy to get caught up in the hype. So I would buy a plug and play or a bind and fly that's pretty much set up so you can fly and enjoy the hobby. All right, that's first. The second, I would buy something like a Tiro 69 or one of the ones you have to put a little bit more effort into to make it work so that you can understand the electronics and is cheap and something that you don't really worry about breaking as much. For me, that was the Tiro 69. I still have it. I love that one. You have to put it together so you learn a little bit of the construction. It has plugs in it, so you're not doing too much soldering, but you do have to solder the motors together. So it gets you used to the idea, especially on a challenging platform, trying to fit everything in and working together. And it gets you used to the idea of how to do repairs and how to set up UARTs and how to do everything you need to do to make the hobby enjoyable. And once you're comfortable with those 2 options, build your own. And that way you can pick out your motors, you can pick out everything and make your custom spec beautiful quad. By that time, you're probably going to be flying a 5-inch or you're going to be ready for a 5-inch and you'll know the pieces to put together on it. And that will save you so much, just so much in effort. Most people like me started out with 5-inch, and then you broke something and you had to wait for arms, you had to wait for things, you had to wait. It was a lot of wait time, and then it was a lot of not great repair time, which means you have to buy a lot more tools, which means you put a lot more effort into it, which means you're not flying as much. Now, the thing I like about my approach, you have a bind and fly, it's going to fly, it's going to last a good bit, especially if you do a 3-inch and smaller. A whoop size, a Mobula 7 is great, 2S whoop size. Batteries are cheap. You learn how to fly it, you get the muscle memory down, and it's a good platform to start off with. 3 years ago, that micro size sucked. I mean, they did. 3 inches sucked up until a few years ago. Heck, the Turtle 135, I think, is, yeah. Anyway, one of those, like 145 used to be the sweet spot. But now, you know, if you spend $100, $150, you can get a good 3-inch that flies really well, keeps you in the air. So you have your fun quad, you have your toothpick size that you can just whip out and fly anytime. Batteries are cheap. And then you have your, ooh, I'm going to go really put down. And that's whenever you get into seeing a lot of people with like 15 quads on the wall, because normally by the time you get the 5-inch, you build one. A lot of times, like, I love to build. I love making things. I love speccing things out. I love putting them together. It's a lot of fun. That means that I have to kind of set my budget for that. But I feel like the best way to enjoy the hobby is to always have a backup, start small, and by the time you get to that 5-inch range, you might not be breaking as much, and that's good. Now, some people say, ooh, simulator, simulator, simulator. Personally, I learned so much more from flying a toothpick than I did from any simulator. I love the sims, don't get me wrong. GTA 5 is still my favorite sim to fly, and I have a video on how to convert Grand Theft Auto 5 on PC to actually running as a flight simulator, and it's so much fun. With winter coming up, that's probably what I'm going to be flying most of anyway. But it sets unrealistic gravity expectations, and it sets unrealistic crashing consequences. So in a simulator, if you crash, you don't really care. But trust me, when you have a $500 piece flying around, you care when you crash, like, unless you're, you know, sponsored. So yeah, anyway, that's what I wanted to say. That's my controversial advice. Plan on 3 setups. Your bind and fly out of the gate, good to fly. Your put it together is questionable, but it's still fun, and it gets the knowledge in your head that you need. And build your own. And do them in about that order. Because if you just start out build your own, it's a fun experience, but you're going to make mistakes. And right now, motors are expensive. ESCs, prices have come down, but they're still expensive. You're not going to save that much money by building your own. And the end experience isn't going to be different enough for about 90% of the people who do it. The end experience is not going to be that different. They're going to enjoy the process, and inside your head, it's going to be like, ooh, I did this and it's so great. But your end flight, if you look at it objectively, it's not that different. It just really isn't. But it's fun. So I say this because I love building things. I built my PC. I've got a dual monitor setup behind me that's now on arms. I love these things. I love speccing out. I just like the process more than the actual flight. But when you get down to it, the fun in the flight is actually flying. So that's going to do it. Be thankful out there. I appreciate everyone, especially those of you who reached out. So anyway, come join us on Discord, and it's fun. Like I say, it's just people hanging out. We normally talk quads, but every now and then it might be baking, it might be dogs, or it might be bidets. You never know. But I appreciate you. So I hope you all have a good day. Be safe, be kind, be thankful. I appreciate all of you. Don't forget, like, subscribe, thumbs up. I'll get more back into it, but I tell you, 2020 has taken such a toll on everybody that I hope you're taking care of yourself and your family. I really do, because I don't want to hear about anyone missing people next year. I want everyone to be happy. Because, you know, a friend of mine told me that I'm about to show you the way. And I thought I would be a very good cult leader with this hair. Except I don't really want to lead a cult. But FPV might be a good cult to be around in. So thank you so much. Appreciate y'all. Have a good day.